They knew it was dangerous.
Their own tests showed that the site was so contaminated it could and did actually ignite. But officials ignored the test results and committed to build a $38 million courthouse in a perilously polluted pit. The project is now a disaster. And when investigative reporter Larry Barker asked questions, the answers he got were lies.
Santa Fe County decided this spot in Santa Fe's downtown would be a good place to build a new $38 million courthouse. But there's something wrong with this picture. They broke ground a year ago, and Santa Fe County has already shelled out $14 million on the project.
But the only thing they have to show for it is this big hole in the ground. The contractor was sent home 6 months ago. There's no bulldozers, no plumbers, no electricians. What's going on here?
You see, the courthouse is at ground zero of an environmental disaster.
It's not a good thing. I don't think it's ever good to have a plume of gasoline going through the middle of a property that's under construction. That's obvious.
Jim Davis is a scientist with the State Environment Department.
It is a major contamination problem. There's no doubt about it.
Why construct a $38 million building in a disaster zone?
To answer that question, we need to go back 40, 50, 60 years when service stations like this were a common sight throughout New Mexico. Gasoline was stored in huge underground tanks that, over time, would leak.
Refined petroleum that seeps into the soil does not evaporate or dissolve. Plumes of decades-old gasoline are still underground today. And because it's highly toxic, the dangerous chemicals threaten New Mexico's water supply. In Santa Fe, scientists know refined gasoline has seeped into the ground from old leaky underground tanks.
In terms of the amount of gasoline, the amount of contamination, this is a big deal.
Historically, there were service stations adjacent to Santa Fe County property. And even though those businesses are long gone, over time, their leaking storage tanks dumped thousands of gallons of refined petroleum into the ground. Scientists know a poisonous plume has been migrating towards the county's proposed courthouse site. And that's a problem. You can't construct a building on top of toxic waste.
We didn't know there was a gasoline contamination plume when we made the decision to place the courthouse there.
Didn't know? Well, our investigation found well before the first shovelful of dirt was ever turned, the county did know its construction site was dangerously polluted. And rather than working with the state's Environment Department to investigate, Santa Fe County simply looked the other way.
The more questions we ask, the fewer answers we got.
For example, in 2005, the state asked to drill a critically important test well on county property. The well would confirm whether the gasoline plume had migrated to the county property. Roman Abeta is Santa Fe's county manager.
You had no problem with them putting in a monitoring well on county property?
No.
But in fact, the county did have a problem and refused the state's request.
Bottom line, the county would not let you dig that well.
We did not receive permission from the county, that is correct.
Instead of allowing state scientists access, the county decided to do its own investigation into possible contamination.
We put 6 monitoring wells and they didn't show contamination.
Even though Abeta says the samples came up clean, the county kept those test results from the Environment Department for 5 months. And now we know why. The county's own tests showed the courthouse construction site was horribly contaminated with dangerously high levels of toxic chemicals.
So did the county wells come up clean with no contamination?
No, they did not. 2 of those 6 wells showed significant levels of benzene contamination. They were well above standards. One well was 580 times above standards. A second well was 34 times above standards for benzene. They should have realized at that point that they had a problem.
Was it a mistake or a cover-up? Either way, the message was clear. A courthouse would be built here, contamination or not. In fact, a county consultant offered cooperation with the state as long as it, quote, does not interfere with the schedule or cost of the construction. By the time the state learned the courthouse site was horribly polluted, it was too late. The county had already poured millions into the project. Secretary Curry accused Santa Fe County of digging first and asking questions later.
today, is that site environmentally safe?
No.
Is that a gray area or is it a no?
No.
In May, the Environment Department ordered a halt to the county project.
A construction worker, had a welding torch of some sort down there, and there was enough vapor in the air to ignite the particular welder's beard on fire. That's a good example of the risk that you have when you're operating at a site like this.
Construction will not resume until this place is cleaned up as required under state law. Tons of polluted soil will have to be hauled off, and sophisticated wells will be drilled to literally suck the raw gasoline out of the ground. The cleanup will cost taxpayers millions.
If back in 2005 the county had looked at the site and determined that it was just too environmentally risky to build on the site, would we be where we are today, spending millions of dollars to clean it up?
Probably not.
County Manager Abeyta says he accepts the blame if any mistakes were made, but he makes no apologies.
It was wise to build a $38 million construction project in the middle of a public health hazard.
Yes, because we're going to clean that public health hazard, and if we wouldn't have built it, who's to say if it would have ever gotten cleaned?
Construction could resume as early as next spring. Meanwhile, even though the contractor has not done a lick of work since May, the county has already paid Bradbury and Stamm more than $160,000 just for doing nothing.
Why are you paying the contractor $27,000 a month?
Because it's within their contract that if there was a work stoppage, we would pay that.
Larry Barker, KRQE News 13.